Living color. Oh my goodness, you kids out there. It is the fourth roundtable discussion with Soap Host Podcast. Say that 10 times fast or don't. I'm James Lott Jr. and welcome to Daytime Today Live. Yes, we are here for you tonight on a Thursday night. I know. It's our fourth time doing this. And I want to thank every single person who has watched the last three. Oh my goodness, you kids, James, out there. What am I talking? It is the fourth. Oh, shut up. Roundtable discussion with Soap Host Podcast. Say that. Oh my God. There we go. 10 times faster, Jones. I'm James Lott Jr. And welcome to Daytime Today. No, stop talking. We're here for you tonight on a. There we go. I can't shut myself up. Everybody. Yeah, and here we are. We just glitches all tonight. It's this kind of fun thing. It's because this is live television, people. It's crazy. Welcome to the show. Again, thank you to everybody who came on. Thanks to all my former guests that came on for the first three. We had a great time. We had so much fun. We got fun tonight. We have three people who you've probably seen before or heard. All three have been on my shows over the past. One's been on a long time because I've done them a long time ago. But you still follow all of them, and I consider them my friends. The first person I'm going to introduce, she's on several of my audio dramas, but also she does Dockside in the Bay and a few other things with our friend Vinny, who was on last night from Suds in the Square Circle Media. Help me welcome Kim Pinto. Hi, Kim.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for having me. I was flattered to get the invite.
Yay, very good. Again, very good. And people, come on to the chat, people. Come on in. Come on, the water's fine, or kind of fine. All right, so now I've known him, we just decided, I guess it's about 8-9 years at this point, but it's been a long time. And I saw him one day in that basement, and I was like, who that? And we talked. I reached out to him. He came on my show early on in the back in the day. He used to call into AfterBuzz TV, so he's one of the OGs. He has GH Envy, and he also had another show at one time. You were doing several things at once. It's Deon. Hi, Deon.
Hey, how's it going?
Very good. It's very good to see you. Everybody, people are already talking to Albert already. Okay, so the last person I'm talking on here, he is James Lott Jr. Jr. He has his own channel. He's like literally has. I don't even do nighttime programming only because that's his domain. I try to stay off around a certain time period because it's him. He comes on talking about all the soap operas. He has tons of fans. Many of you guys just know and love him. It is Albert Bostic.
Thank you, James. Thank you for having me come through. It's always interesting to be on your channel. So thank you for having me.
My pleasure. I do some church announcements before we get started. Of course, this is Daytime Today. Follow us on all social media platforms at Daytime Today, or follow us at JLJ Media. We get all your goodness. We do soaps, as we do. I do on this channel. I've been doing them for 10 years. On this Sunday, we will be here talking about Young and the Restless, Bold and the Beautiful, and General Hospital with my co-hosts, Amanda Russ, Tammy Govea, and the man you all love, the curmudgeon, Frank Moran. We will be talking about that all this weekend, starting at 10 a.m. Pacific, and we go on to about 3. And then our sister channel with my chocolate twin, Tony Moore, talking about Dish and Days. And they'll be on at 3 p.m. on their channel, Pacific. So make sure you follow all of us. And after this, we're going to let you know where they do their shows. I'm going to tell you, if you don't follow them afterwards, if you're not following these people already, I will come and find you. I will. I'll just show up and be like, James, what are you doing here? And I'll follow them. So yes. Hey, everyone. Great. Albert Bostic is in. For some reason, they're all saying that you're into Candace Mack. I don't know what that's about, Albert. This Ron Julian guy thinks you're into Candace.
Well, Ron thinks a lot of things, so we'll leave it at
that. We have one more. Oh, hi, Allison. I know Allison. Hi, Allison. Okay, David Salvini, who's in the chat, will be on Monday's Roundtable number 5 with the girls from Pier 54, a General Hospital podcast, Amanda and Shannon. Those 3 will be on Monday at 7 p.m. here live on Days. We're going to do that one, so it's going to be so much fun. Brooklyn, hi, James. I love these. It's been awesome. All your weekly Tuesday announcements. Thank you. I appreciate that. The guys, everybody's in the chat. Everybody here's in the chat. So you can talk to them also on the side. But just want to tell you guys, just support soap podcasters. We get lots of hatred and all kinds of good, crazy things. But we also have great fans. And we appreciate it. We wouldn't be here if you didn't watch our shows, we wouldn't be here. or listen to them, we really wouldn't be here. And I appreciate that. Okay. All right. So yeah, come on in, have a good time. We got 30 people watching already. I'm so happy. Thank you for all you guys coming in. And I'll have to ask my guests their first question. Hello, guests.
Hello.
Okay.
So,
Here's our first question. Yes, and hello to all my Lotties. I love you guys. I'm the Godfather. Oh, they call me James Blunt Jr. Yes, I am blunt. I've gotten in trouble for my words. Yes, I have over the years. Okay. This is to all of you. What do you look for in the soap operas you watch to keep you watching them?
Good acting.
At home, too. At home, you can also answer this in the chat. I'm going to say this one more time. What do you look for in your soap opera to keep you watching said soap opera? Whoever wants to go first, go first. I'm not going to. I'll pick some of you at certain times, but this one I'm even open to. Whoever wants to go first, go first.
I'll say
for me-
good acting for one.
okay.
Okay.
That's what keeps me on GH even when the writing is atrocious. But also just like a good balance of like action, romance, and some serious drama and some lightheartedness too. Like I need all four in the show. If it's all drama all the time, it's all romance all the time, I'll get bored. So a good mixture. Good mixture. That's what I look for.
Very good. I think Albert, you're next.
I needed to be going at a certain pace. I needed to be at least moving. And I think that's what it comes down to. No matter what soap opera I'm watching, I needed to move at a certain pace. Doesn't always have to be super fast, but I needed to be moving. So
You'll be afraid about pacing all the time on our show. Kim, what keeps you watching your soap?
Like characters that I've been invested in for as long as I have. Certain faces, certain, just my favorite couples, my favorite legacy kids, my favorite, you got to layer them in, you got to write responsibly, but making sure that like there's storylines that are keeping with, in character that, like you recognize these guys. And even if, pacing, plot, all of that, it's important, but it's like, if I don't see my characters acting like themselves, it tends to make me want to tune out a little bit. It tends to make me want to drop away. So definitely, the characters that I care for, but also just, keep it in the humor, keeping it balanced. You can't just have it all just be straight drama. You got to have some, lighthearted stuff in there too. And yeah, but definitely my faves. That's who I tune in to see, the folks I grew up with.
Janae in the chat wins. Drama, and shirtless hunks. Sure, I'm there. I'm like, doesn't turn me away. Shocking storylines and romance, storyline. I want to pick back off something. You guys all gave great answers because that's all part of it, right? But you said something that I want to dive right into because it's a major thing. You said, you, meaning somebody you, Kim, said, I like to see my characters acting like themselves. So, panel, how do you feel when you feel like they do a real left turn, Drew? Do a real left turn on a character, or you feel like they retcon a character story for a current story? So, because Kim, you're right. There's times you're like, they would never act like that. Like, why are they doing that? So I just wonder, you guys, how do you guys feel about that? That's a major plot point for a lot of fans. I will say, Deon, you go first.
Well, I was even talking about this yesterday. Obviously Drew is kind of the major one, but it's been a thing on GH a lot of times. It's not just this time around. We've seen, especially last year when there was like 3 different writer swaps, just characters just jumping from A to Z out of nowhere with no explanation. Suddenly Ava, who had all this character growth, was suddenly evil and bad again out of nowhere. And it's like, it's fine if they get there, but we need to see the path of like how they got there. So it drives me bonkers. And I'm glad, Kim, that you said, characters acting like they're supposed to, because when it doesn't happen, it makes me angry and it makes me tune out of the show. And the only time I stopped watching GH was when probably back in like the Ron Carlivati days, where it felt like a fan fiction for a while. It was like, what is even going on? Like suddenly Elizabeth is the town pariah, and like Nicholas is evil and he's like rigging elections. Like it was just like, where, what happened? How did we get here? I don't know. It drives me nuts. And that was the only time I actually stopped watching GH was
So you
that
stopped
era. I was
watching.
like, I
You
can't do it.
stopped watching it. You
I
actually
did. It
stopped.
was like 2014, 2015 ish.
Yeah.
Whenever like Jason came back, but it was Drew.
Yes.
Billy Miller was playing him.
Oh no. Yeah. Exactly.
When everyone thought he was Jason and Elizabeth was keeping that a secret, like that. It wasn't that settled it for me. It was a bunch of things all together, all happening at the same time. And then I feel like even probably some of the actors felt that way, because I just remember when Ron was let go, Maurice was like, so they fired the writer, like just bluntly on his like socials, and I was like, well, I wonder why.
Well, you know, I stopped watching Bold for a little while. It got a little too. It was with the Carter storyline, and Lawrence, which was my friend, and I felt it was a little too racist for me a little bit. So I had to stop watching the storyline for a little while, and I stopped watching the show. I did for a little bit. I've gone back to it since. But I know a lot of us, people say, I'm not watching the show anymore. And of course they're watching it still. But they complain. But I know for me, I always feel like your time is valuable. If you don't like something, stop watching it. I always just kind of feel that way. Albert, why don't you go next? What are your thoughts on all this?
See, my whole thing is like, I feel like it's usually when they do that, it's for plot. Like with Lucky, coming back and being like, oh, I'm more like my father. And, I like to hit the road. And I'm just like, I don't remember Lucky being like that. And it just comes around just for plot, and it just comes across as lazy. It's just more convenient to sit there and write it that way, even though it doesn't make sense. And as a fan, I'm sitting there talking, I'm sitting there reviewing this, and I'm like, I don't want to be negative, but I'm like, what are we doing at this point, So like that's my issue. It just comes across as lazy.
Albert, I felt like they were trying to make him like Luke. I was like,
Yeah.
well, not really Luke, because at one point you were a cop and all this stuff. You were a little more morally centered. It was like, but it was kind of like now it's like you're trying to make him like I have to be on the road all the time. I felt like it felt a little weird. A little weird to me. Kim, what are you thinking?
I mean, it's one of those where I piggybacking off of Albert, what you said about, it being lazy. I agree with that too. Sometimes I feel like, and you had mentioned Deon, you'd mentioned Ron and kind of tuning out. When I'm a Days fan, so when Ron kind of parted ways, there was a little bit of kind of a sigh of relief, I think, just in terms of some of the plots that he was kind of, because it felt like there was more plot driven writing going on than character driven writing. It felt like some of the storylines were just a little bit too, like you said, like almost like just not, it didn't feel like in character. It didn't feel really ingrained. It kind of felt like, oh, we're going to do something big and fun and shiny over here, but we're going to kind of ignore some of the history and some of the, and it felt like that was just kind of getting sidelined, and it was frustrating to watch, even as a newer fan to the show. But gosh, I remember when I was watching All My Children, I mean, that was the soap that I grew up on. And I was seeing, just characters that I love just kind of getting like written in these weird sort of, it was almost like shock factor. It was almost just like, okay, we're going to kind of go in and just do this plot point because, ooh, it's going to attract, it's like, I don't know, they made my favorite guy bury a guy alive. It's just like, what the hell what are we doing right now? What is happening with this show? This is like the lovable, like kind of, crazy cad who I've loved forever, and now he's like, committed a, it's just one of those things where it was just frustrating and disheartening to see it. And you didn't really see it kind of turn around until the show was on the verge of cancellation. And then they just kind of were like, well, now we're going to bring it back to its family roots. Now we're going to bring it back to character driven writing. But it was like too little too late. So every time I watch like a soap, I always get a little bit just like, let's keep them in character, guys. Don't just like, like keep them acting the way that they have been, even if it's a little bit slower, even if it's like slows things down a little bit, at least it's more grounded. And, I appreciate the character driven writing more than just the funny retconny plots that can just kind of get out of hand, and you just feel like, what am I watching right now? Who are these people?
I'm going to actually bring up something, Kim, to you and to the others also. So when does it become okay for like a character, let's say like Jason? He was one way for a long time, but then They switched him. He's been that way for the last 30 years, and it seems to work, right? Stone Cold. Or All My Children. How they kind of morphed J.R. Chandler. And they got Jacob Young, to me, one of the greatest things they did on that show, and made him much more of an anti-hero, kind of just drunken. I think sometimes it works when they do change a character a little bit and go, we're going this direction now.
Sometimes it works. And sometimes it feels a little I fell for JR hard when I was like, he was like my teenage
Here's the bomb.
I mean, come on, freaking Jacob Young, come on. Like,
Right.
just between him and Jamie. I was the Martins and the Chandlers were my favorites.
Yeah.
But I will say that like with JR, they definitely had him on a trajectory where yes, he was the reformed bad boy, he like bad boy, but also good heart. And they kept that going for a while, but then right at the tail end, right before AMC got canceled, I don't know what the hell they decided to do to my guy, but it was ridiculous. And it was just I think it was for the sake of them trying to extend the show out and make it, make him like, this, like, so it would carry over into the not what they were doing. But oh my gosh, they just totally they kind of wrecked my character by making him just this very bigoted, hateful sort of, it's like they just fully tapped into the villain part of him. And that wasn't, the character had layers, character had depth before. And all of that just kind of got washed away for the sake of making him like a villain who would shoot up a party so that we'd have a good cliffhanger. And that was.
So we're not talking All My Children all of a sudden. We're not doing I have an All My Children after show out tomorrow. I've actually interviewed Michael Bernard, who played Joey Martin in the 80s and 90s. He's tomorrow's guest. So he's so good looking right now. Oh my God, I was fanning over him during the interview. But it's out tomorrow. And also tomorrow, Voices of Daytime with Patricia Darbo and Kevin Spiritus. That's tomorrow with Tammy Govea. Also, we're doing interviews all the time. We got all kinds of stuff going on here. Those are supposed to be out tomorrow. Don't miss those interviews. They're good, audio and video. But they also changed JR's for the continuation too, as a whole other. That's another story. But yeah, I just think that sometimes change of direction works. Somebody brought up Willow. I don't know why you brought her up because we don't talk about her on this channel. But you brought her up. I have no use for him, but I mean, Albert and Deon, your thoughts on when characters, when they do change them up and they actually do work?
Well, I find when they do work, it's because the writing helped. Like, Jason had a reason why he switched. He literally forgot his memory, and then he had the Quartermains as his family, so of course he's going to rebel against them at that age. So, like, it made sense, like, that kind of thing makes sense. As long as we see how they get there, I'm okay with a major character change as long as we see the path of it. It's just when it's out of nowhere and there's no reason really given. Like, I wouldn't even hate Drew being a villain if we, like, saw how we got there. And I think part of it was really just the amount of writer changes that we had when they started that story, because it seemed like they were going to have it related to him getting beaten to a pulp in jail. People were questioning it, like, every single day, and then it was no longer questioned. And suddenly he was just evil, and everyone was like, well, okay, Drew sucks. Like, the entire town and also the audience.
He's getting shot. That's the whole thing. We're leading to a who shot Drew. You know what's happening, folks, right? I already timestamped it 2 shows ago.
That would be the craziest whodunit ever. Because literally the entire town hates him.
Trina. I don't know. Albert, what do you think? What's going on with that? Any recasts work? That's a good one, actually. I like that. But what do you think about that kind of stuff, Albert?
I mean, for me, I guess my only thing would be Jason, in a sense, like stepping up as a father. And, granted, there's a reason for that, and it's because Sam died. But before then, he wasn't really about his kids. I mean, he was about Carly and Sonny's kids, but he wasn't really about his own kids. So I think that's kind of more of a welcome change in a different pace. That's the only one I could sit there and think of.
Yeah, actually, DC goes, he'd be Ryan Lavery. That's kind of funny. For all you All My Children fans, I'm kind of with you, Albert. I just feel like I don't mind him as a villain. I don't mind him, but I get what Deon's saying though. Like, he wanted something to kind of lead there. There were so many different. some of the writing changes. I mean, it was literally, I think there was one period. I think we went through like 3 writing changes within a month. Like it was they were transitioning so hard. I saw them just shoring up stories. Like, okay, you're out of the picture. You're going off the show. Like, I was happy about it. I was like, that's fine. And then you also got Days, who was like, okay, we started doing these Beyond Salem's, which were wonderful. I love the Beyond Salem idea. I wish they continued that. But they were like, but NBC was like, bye, we don't want you anymore. Go somewhere else. And luckily, Peacock still will pick it up. And you guys, everybody at home watches Days of Lives. You know, Days is like 9 months in advance. That's goddamn ridiculous.
The 10.
Why is it not? Because I'm like, so Billy Flynn is already on GH. I mean, on why not? Thank God, no more Aristotle Dumas. Screw that name. But you got Connor Floyd, who's my buddy. I can't even talk about him on Days. He's not going to be airing till April of next year. How do you guys feel about that? Because most of the soaps are 5.5 weeks in advance. This is 9 months.
They can't.
Albert walked off. He was like, "Oh my God, this is crazy." Okay.
They can't pivot in terms of plot, and it's not good because it's like, you're just locked into whatever story it is as a viewer. Like, even if you really dislike what's playing out, you get to, like, a little teaser of something that's going to happen. Like, once in a while you'll see like a reel or something on Instagram, someone behind the scenes, like, and you're like, oh, that's cool. We're going to see that person, but not for another how many months.
Yes,
and it's like, it's just like a gut punch. It's just like, come on. And they can't make any, it's like that they can't make any changes. They can't make any sort of, not that I feel like a lot of the, stories are kind of etched out and planned in advance, everything like that, but they don't have any room to pivot at all with that. And it's the only soap that does it, as far as I know.
Right. No, all the others are around 5 to 5.5 weeks in advance.
It's ridiculous.
You could change the story in a second there. I mean, you don't have to worry about that. So yeah, everybody says, Days is, Days schedule is done. I know, it's crazy. Go ahead, go Kim.
Deon said, you need that growth for these characters. You need to be able to see these arcs play out. And like, if you're like, shooting all that out in advance, it's like, how are you supposed to give characters that? Give them that time to just kind of have these longer arcs, have like a redemption arc, or have like an arc that makes them a villain. How are you supposed to do that if you're filming that far out? It's just such a handicap, I feel like, for them. And it's just, I wish there was a way that they could get away from it, but I don't know how they would.
Well, here's the thing. During the pandemic, what show did not run out of episodes? Days of Our Lives. They surely didn't. So, I mean, on some level, right? You have to kind of like...
Sure.
They didn't run out. Everybody else ran out. We didn't do a show for like 4 months. I mean, like literally, all the shows, they had nothing. So, yeah, so it's kind of... So I guess for them it must be working. So I'll give them that much. Yeah. But speaking of recast, because that's something that I was going to bring up, but everybody in chat's talking about it. He is my friend, and I will say this: Rory Gibson is one of the best recasts on recent soap memory that I can think of. That came out, hit the ground running, and it's just been continuing ever since. Those of you guys who watched General Hospital, do you guys agree?
I agree, but I'm biased because I really didn't like Chad Duell that much as Michael. So I don't know. I can say that about myself, but Rory's doing a great job. Like he had to go like deep diving into the biggest story that was happening without Chad, and just had to just go for it. He had to just have these established relationships with his kid, with Willow, with Drew, with his family, with Sonny, Carly, and Jason. Like the biggest story on the show, and he was thrown into it, and he's killing it, and he's doing a fantastic job. I was praising him even yesterday. Just the scenes with Willow, Caitlin and Rory killed those scenes yesterday.
They did.
And I've never liked recast so quickly, and it's because he's actually genuinely doing a great job, and it's nice to see, and it's I'm glad it wasn't like an awkward like transition into it. It just felt like smooth, and it was just like, okay, yeah, he's Michael, makes sense.
Thomas in the chat, I agree with you on some level. They said the newest Molly hit the ground running too. She did, but they had like 4 Mollys they had to go through before they got to her. This one's just like straight up from one guy who was on for like 14 years to a new guy. So I'm saying it's a little, it's slight, but you're right, Molly. I like the new, I like the Molly. I like Molly. I like her. But they had like 3 or 4 they had to get through first when they got there. But with Rory, yes, I agree. But then before I get to the others, so for you, Dia, then how was it watching? Well, wait, so did you like Drew Garrett before when he was a teenager playing?
Yeah, I was, before we really knew, I was hoping Drew Garrett would come back because he had his interview with Maurice on State of Mind, and I was like, well, maybe, but I was like, I don't think it'll happen. I just hope whoever they get does a great job and makes me like Michael again. Yeah. And Rory's already done that, and it's been like a month, maybe.
I know. So, oh my God. And I love that little kid was like, bye, mommy. I was like, oh my God. I don't know if that was scripted or not, but I laughed so hard. Albert Bostic, what are you feeling about Rory Gibson as Michael?
Oh no, he's killing it. And you know what I like about like him actually being on General Hospital is because when he was on The Young and the Restless, they didn't really have him doing much of anything.
Nope.
And now we get to actually see him actually act, him actually have good scenes. Not just act, but like have good scenes. And we didn't see that in Young and the Restless, unfortunately. So yeah.
Jason,
I knew he was gonna kill it though.
Me too, I knew he was too. Jason, I do agree. Dan Furigal also, there's a new EJ, came in the ground running also. He was really good as EJ. I agree with you on that one. So Kim, what do you think about Rory as
well, I'm a bit of I'm very, very, very behind GH. I was trying to get caught up and now I've just totally when it comes to, I've seen a lot of friends of mine who are GH fans. Also, my sister's in-laws who are really into GH. They are thrilled with the recast. They think that it's really, made the actor just being able to just really show his stuff, and as opposed to YNR, because my sister's in-laws are soap fans. Okay. So they've kind of filled me with those. But I, as far as even just there's a certain energy that when it's nice seeing actors who we're getting underutilized on another show just being able to really show their stuff, not to plug the Bay, but it was really refreshing seeing all of these veteran talented awesome actors just being able to actually show their stuff on this show versus some of them getting sidelined on Days, what have you, other soaps. And just seeing them with a certain caliber of writing and just being able to act their hearts out and do really well. I mean, it was just, it was really nice. It's been fun diving in, watching the Bay again and just seeing these actors that I love from other shows, just being able to just get that quality material and just kill it,
So Kim, there's soap operas. So yes, there's the Bay. I'm friends with Gregory G. Martin, everybody over there. So that's if you haven't seen it, it's episodic and it comes out season by season. It's a different kind of little format. And some of the seasons are self-contained. Some they have a big long story. I know there's a lot of your favorite actors on there, but I'm also going to shout out to Studio City. My guy Sean Kanan put out his 2 seasons, and James Lott Jr.'s episode 2, season 2. Thanks, folks. On there, and you'll see a lot of your favorite stars, like Sarah Joy Brown and Tristan Rogers and Patricia Darbo, all of them on there, acting their buns off on that show. Also, I mentioned Venice. That's the one that started it all. My girl, Chris Chappelle, started that almost 16, 17 years ago when it was called, there were webisodes. They had names they don't even have today anymore. And she did it with gay characters, and they did it outside in Los Angeles. We have to say, so Kim, no, we can talk, those are soap operas. That's all soap operas. And I think and nowadays we have audio dramas, which I have 25 of them. Some of your favorite stars on some of those also. Some of those. So I mean, it's a whole new world. It's a whole new world. No. It's a whole new world out there. But yes, there are other soaps, and there's many more that I'm not mentioning. But those are the 3 for sure I want to mention because they're my friends also. But they're legitimate, and of course you have Beyond the Gates too now. So we have that also, which I love very much. So okay, then we're going to pivot for a second. Yeah, my questions. Okay. I actually asked this 2 nights ago. What is one soap trope you are tired of? You're like, no more. For me, no more miscarriages. I'm tired of women being used as incubators and they throw them down the stairs or they're crunched or like something happens. And I'm like, no more miscarriage. I'm just tired of the whole miscarriage thing. Just in general. And then specifically on Bold and Beautiful, I'm tired of Ridge, Brooke, and Taylor. I'm tired of that whole thing. But you guys, what soap tropes, and you guys also in the chat, you say the same thing, are you tired of? You're like, that's it. So we'll start with you, Kim.
So this is gonna sound kind of strange because this is normally a vehicle on soaps that I appreciate because it has brought back a lot of my faves in the past. But Back from the Dead. I'm I'm sorry, Death on Days right now, it's meaningless. But in the wake of losing John Black and losing Drake, being able to see like the funeral and the tribute episodes that they've done for this character, also on the back of everything that with Bill Hayes as well,
and John Aniston. They had 3 in like in 2 years. Yeah.
Plus these characters that cannot come back in any because these that they were owned by these actors. These actors are no longer with us, so it's refreshing almost to know that they're not going to be resurrected in any weird way, because it's just become so cheap and useless. I mean, when they did that whole arc, when I first really got into the show, it was right on the Abigail murder mystery, all this stuff, and it's just like, okay, either bring her back or not, but it's just it's exhausting. Yeah, Dr. Rolf just spiriting people back like no business, and it's just
David Hayward too. David Hayward.
Oh, for sure. I mean, by the end of All My Children, he was bringing everybody back. He had a whole
you're alive and you're alive and you're alive. Yeah, exactly.
I appreciated it because it brought back characters that shouldn't have been killed off in the first place. But I feel like now it's just become like just cheapened, and it's back even like on days like you watch the episode when like Steve dies and it's tragic and it's gut-wrenching, and even when Bo died, that and hopes are all of that, and I'm thrilled that they brought Bo back. I'm thrilled that they got to he walked into the sunset with hope. But okay, let's put it to let's kind of have a moratorium now on the Back from the Deads, because now it's just getting to be more of a cheap stunt than anything, and it makes the death of these characters meaningless, whereas back in the day it was gut-wrenching and awful. And maybe there's a chance that they would come back, but you're not going to see like like the deathbed scene like Steve and Kayla had again. It's like, so let's let them, if they're gone, keep up. Don't just make us think that they're going to come back in like a month because shock factor, something like that.
DC Soap Sanctuary, I'm going to ignore your statements about Bo and Hope. Sorry. If everybody knows me, I'm the biggest Chris Alfonso Hope fan on the earth. So we're going to ignore that. I want to thank so far 55 people. You guys are coming in and watching the show. Like, I don't know what's going on. I love it. Thank you. Okay, Albert, what do you think?
For me, the trope that actually gets me the most is when they do stuff like they either make somebody blind, they put somebody in a wheelchair, and then like they give them some sort of cure or whatever. Like, it's just kind of annoying, and I also feel like it's on some level a little bit kind of disrespectful to people that are in wheelchairs that do go blind, because it gives this sort of statement like, okay, well, Sarah could be in a chair for like maybe 3 months or whatever, or like 2 months, and then we gotta sit there and get her walking again. Like that's some sort of statement or something. It's like you're using that to sit there and drive a story, and it just doesn't feel right. Like, it never really set right with me, and they do it. Yeah, I'm not a fan of that trope.
I like that, Albert. I agree with that, and I wonder for folks who are that ableist, for folks who are in. I know I have some fans of my own who are here who are disabled of some sort, and I know they always ask for more representation. And it's like, yeah, well, we feel like they stayed in a wheelchair. Why I gotta get out? Like, why is that whole dramatic? They're walking. Oh my god! It's like the whole Curtis thing that was tied. Oh, there's like we knew he was gonna walk at some point, right? Deon, so what trope are you like? Stop it! Stop it!
I'm with Kim. The Back from the Dead stuff annoys the crap out of me. I mean, we've seen it. I'm sure every soap has done it several times over, to the point where it's like, and it sucks when it's like a death that doesn't make sense to like be recanted. Like the biggest one for me in the last, I don't even know, 15, 20 years on GH was bringing back Jake,
Oh
Jason and Elizabeth's
yeah, that's
son,
right.
because it made so little sense that the explanation happened off screen. They didn't put the reason. They just showed like Luke's reaction to it, being like, "Wow, that's crazy." But like, so how did they do it? And they just never explained it. They're like, Helena did a trick, and Jake is alive. I was like, we saw him like go brain dead after getting hit by a car. What? they gave away his organs. Like, and they brought the whole Nell portion of that story, but even then that was flimsy at best, and it was just like, oh, it drove me nuts. But no, it is it's a tired trope, and it really does cheapen the tragic stories, because the Jake story, his death storyline was like one of the best, most emotional
Yes.
stories that had happened in years on the show. And everyone did such a great job. Jonathan Jackson, Steve Burton,
Oh, yes.
Rebecca. Like they all killed it. It was like the best work that they had done in decades, even as the actors themselves. And it's like, it just, bringing him back, it just felt so like, why did they have to? Like, we didn't, no disrespect to Jason and Liz fans, and it's awful when they kill off a kid, but like that's what kind of makes it like so like hard hitting. It's like, no, it was tragic, but it was such a beautiful story, and we were treated to these amazing things, and then they undid the death and like made it sort of Luke's redemption to bring him back as well when Tony Geary was leaving. So it was just like, I don't know. And even I think even Tony spoke against it. He's like, I did not want this, like before he left, because it made no sense, and it's unfortunate. And I think I don't know for sure, but it feels like we're about to get one again with Britt.
Yeah, I know.
Kelly T. Rose
I'm
coming
not sure. I'm
back.
not sure.
They're showing her a lot, and I'm like, the girl died of a poisonous hook, and also had Huntington's disease.
Right.
How are they gonna like? How are they gonna bring her back years later? It's not confirmed, but it like feels like the writing's on the wall. They're talking about her almost every day, and she's back in like a couple of weeks, I think.
Yeah, she is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so it's like,
everybody's like the kitty stuff. Nobody has scars. They're bringing up the spina bifida story of Donna. They didn't go there.
yeah.
GH, which I'm whatever. But I gotta ask a question. Veda worship. I'm just very curious because I know the chat has it's weird how things you type something that comes through. When I said tropes, you wrote black couples. You don't like black couples on TV? I'm assuming you must be something else. I'm going to assume because someone says it's disrespectful because of the story. They agree with you guys with that, and also the tumor. Everybody's tired of tumors, but that's in there. So I'm like, you're tired of black couples? Like, I'm sorry, I have to laugh. I'm thinking you don't mean that. I think maybe was that for something earlier answer. I just saw that. I'm like, I have to just like. I mean, if you mean it, I guess you mean it, but I don't think I'm like if you don't mean it, right? I don't think so. Also, they don't call it die. Yeah, let's just see what's going on. They use Huntington's is fatal. Yeah, Huntington's is fatal. Yeah, she's dying. I mean, that was the whole thing, but she was dying anyway. They're saying no more DID storylines. What for me was, we talked about it on one of the other mixers, was when when like 4 people had amnesia at the same time. Like Ned had amnesia, and they all had amnesia. It was like, that's a little weird. I agree with that. Even though, yes, Nikki was the bomb, I know, and all that. And Jay gave the organ. I was like, the organs. Like, he gave us organs. Yeah, it's again, that was a weird one. And there's a scene. I tell you, go watch it. It's on YouTube, where Lucky confronts Luke at the Haunted Star, and he's trying to prove that he can drink and still drive. It's like
Incredible scenes.
7 straight minutes, and it's completely some of the best acting I've seen ever on television. It is, and then Luke breaks down. Oh my god, it is amazing. So I said, just folks, there's some I'm with you guys. There's some I wish they didn't change that. But I there's a couple of storylines I did. I do. I don't mind. I'm glad they kept them dead. Delia on Young and the Restless, they've kept her dead. They have not brought her back. And same with Barbara Jean on GH. They've kept her dead. We got a little flashback thing, you know, we not like a spirit thing later, but like, no, I'm glad they've kept her dead too. That whole storyline was, I remember watching it live and it was amazing. So some people, like, they keep some folks dead. They keep some dead. And I'm glad. Yes, Kim? Sorry, you can't carry. Go ahead.
And Days, they kept I mean, they had Zach show up in a brief, and it's like, honestly, that was like, you know, perfect the way that they handled that. I thought, I don't want to see them bring that, because it just will minimize the amazing scenes that we got when that character passed away.
Agree. Oh no, girl, I got a chance to, I like to gush because I can. When I finally met Christian Alfonso, was a national event, a Day of Days. After 38 years, I was able to interview Christian Alfonso in person. And I'll never forget the day for the rest of my life, obviously. But I got to ask her about that amazing scene where Lexi comes out and just looks at her and just says, "I'm sorry." And Christian Alfonso, I get to ask her, she gave this scream that was so, like, for real, like a parent would, because she couldn't believe it, and she's in Bo's arms screaming. I said, how'd you go there? Because I'm a parent myself, so I'm like, I can't imagine losing my children. And so for her, she has kids in real life also. So I had to ask her that question. I said, to me, that's one of the best scenes that Days ever did also. And I'm glad they kept him on. They brought back a couple of times as a spirit or whatever. I'm glad they did keep him dead also. I said, that's because you can bring him back. You can bring spirits for stories. Sure, that's fine.
Yeah.
But I'm glad they keep them dead. Roby says, Albert, long time seeing you. Deon, the same. I know, these are OGs. Kimberly, I get to know you. James, I know you. You don't know me. You know who I is. You think you know me. Just kidding. I'm your friend. Sorry, what?
No, I was going to sit there and say, why I've heard that Y&R like has this, I don't know if it's true or not, but like they don't really bring back dead people like Bo and the Beautiful. Like they don't really do that. That's more of like a Days or a GH or whatever, but like they don't do that. So, you know, that's another thing they don't have to worry about.
Yeah, well, they haven't done it on Beyond the Gates yet. But
not yet. It's still new. It's still new. Yeah.
Still plenty of time, but so far, you know.
So far they haven't.
No one back from the dead just yet.
Yeah, I love that. That's pretty funny, actually. That's pretty funny. Okay, here's something. Since doing podcasts and shows, has the way you view soaps changed? As you're doing soap podcasts, I'll give you an example for me. Before, I was a true fan, and I was like, I didn't do message boards, I didn't do that kind of stuff, but I would talk to my friends like, oh my God, I can't believe you did this, and she, blah, 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 and stuff. But now that I'm friends with many of the stars, now that I know what goes on behind the scenes, my whole view of watching the soap has changed. I'm still a fan, but I know what goes into some of these soaps sometimes. So for me, I have to admit, it has changed how I kind of view. I still tell my truth of some sort when I do my reviews, but it is peppered with, I can understand like so and so's not this or this. I kind of get it. So I don't know if you guys, if that's changed at all, or you're just like, I'm a fan, I'm still a fan, I still act the way I act. Is that so we'll go with you, Albert, first. We'll go with you, Albert.
It's different. It's different, and it's not even just like with soaps. It's just even if it's other shows that I see and I like a character, whatever. Like when I was a fan, I would just make excuses, or I'll be like, "Oh, well, you know, it's not really that much of a bigger deal." And now I'm sitting there looking at a lot more critical. Like, you know, listen, I like Jason, but he's kind of a deadbeat dad. Like he's you know he's not a good dad, and that's not something I would sit there and say if I was just watching as a fan years ago before I started doing YouTube. So I'm a little more critical about even the characters that I like whenever I sit there and talk about them.
Yeah, I like that. Kim?
It's kind of, I feel like I'm still a fan, but I do, kind of view it with a little bit more of a critical eye. It's funny with The Bay because, I went in, watched that, binged it really, really fast the first time I ever saw it. And then now that I'm going back in doing the rewatch of it, also having met some of the actors and being just kind of, embedded, it does have a different flavor now to it than when I was watching it initially and just like couldn't, just next episode, next episode. Like I'm just, so I think it has colored my perspective a little bit, but in a good way. It's just made me, see the talent and see the actors a lot more for like what they do and everything that like the genre is, and it just makes me appreciate it more, and just getting to know like all the hard work and stuff that goes into it. Whereas when I was just a fan, I would just be like, oh yeah, that's just sloppy writing, I could do better than that. And it's like, yeah, okay, the writing, I can be critical of it, but I'm also just like, they are trying to put out these shows in, like mini movies almost every, just trying to do this every day. It's like, I can't be that, harsh and judgmental too much, when it comes to some of the writing and things like that. Cause it's just like, they gotta, get these out every day, 5 days a week.
So,
And
Kim, you just said something that's very important for the fans to hear. Some shows do up to 8 episodes a week they're filming. So that's 8 scripts you got to write. They ain't all going to be good. Think about it. They're just not. They're all, some are going to be very phenomenal. Some are going to be phenomenal, but some a little dry. Sometimes I get why we have repeat scenes. Sometimes, or I talk about what happened 3 days ago. I kind of get it. Somebody's like thinking, I'm tired of writing. I guess I'll just add that scene in there again. I'm not in no flashback scenes. I kind of get some of that stuff, right? So that's very important for you to say that. It's like, it's a lot of work to write these shows. I mean, I don't know if I can do it at the pace they do it. Ugh, I don't know.
with Beyond the Gates even being so new, it's like I'm looking at that as just like, okay, this might be a little bit, but this show is so new still. It still needs time to develop and do its thing. And I wouldn't be like, if I was just coming from a straight fan perspective, just coming into it, without like, doing the podcast stuff on it and everything, I think it might have a different kind of point of view. I might be a little bit more harsh and critical, but now it's just, I'm looking at it like, it's still, it's fine in its way. It's doing its thing. It's doing great. And yeah, there might be some stuff that isn't exactly like my cup of tea in certain areas, but there's certain areas that I love. And it's just, I wouldn't be saying that though if I was just like a casual, just kind of viewer fan like I was back in the day when I was like 14 years old and commenting on message boards and being salty because my faves were, not getting shown enough.
But we all learned there's guarantees. There's all this whole story. Deon, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't think like doing this show on YouTube has super changed me, other than like I have to pay attention more. Because obviously, when I was just a fan, I had my favorites and I'd focus more on them than anyone else. But I'm like, well, now I have to kind of talk about all of it. So that's really the only thing that changed for me. Because when I was just a fan, I was still on the message boards. I was in, every conversation. I think social media has definitely changed the way that I see soaps, because we get to see the actors as real people and we get to find out the reasons why certain things are happening. It's like with Lucky and Jonathan Jackson, like, yeah, I was mad that he's just suddenly gone, but then I learned like they really brought him back on as an experiment to like see if he could like stay on there. So the abrupt ending, I'm like, okay, it wasn't like, they planned this 9-month saga and then booted him and like dangled, Liz and Lucky in our face and dangled, kind of stories that seemed like, why are we having Lucky do this? We only have 9 months with him. But now, in hindsight, it makes sense. And had I not known any of that, I'd be, annoyed and probably in a message board ranting about it. And, things like that. And that's more of a social media thing than like a YouTube thing. Just like, yeah, the only thing that's changed for me is just paying attention to every single detail rather than just like my favorites.
I already stated my feelings about those situations. They ruined the whole Lucky Jonathan Jackson. We have a 5-time Emmy winner, and you couldn't give him a decent story for 9 months. That's why he left. That's my that's my story. I'm sticking to it. I'm like, they ruined it. If they gave him a good story, he would have stayed.
Fair.
They ruined it. I mean, tell me what story you do. He was dirty he looked dirty the whole time watching Elizabeth. I mean, he didn't do much. So we were in Africa for like 5 months. I mean, it made no sense.
That was the worst part of it. I was like, why
did you sit there
and watch Lucky play poker for like 5 weeks with this ridiculous villain, and now we're stuck with the villain?
Hey, hello, thank you.
We're supposed to take him seriously. What's going on?
That's my little side story about that. I think they wait. We're talking this legendary actor. I just say, and they wasted Elizabeth the whole time too because they don't want her there. And Becky Hurst is very popular. She's a great actress, and they feel like she gets a short end of the stick. every single time.
Mhm.
That's just me. But you can hear more of my rants on my show, JSB Spotlight. But here's the thing I want to bring to you guys, because this is like a sister question, a cousin question, kind of with it too, is that when you were doing it, when you decided, okay, I'll start with Deon first, because I know you the longest. And I liked your style because you have like this aesthetic, you're like, I'm in the basement, like almost like the old school TV access shows where you're in the basement, you kind of, but I mean, like you were kind of punk rock looking to me. I was like, who's this dude coming out? And he was talking about General Hospital. I loved it. I just thought that's why I'm a big fan of yours ever since. When you decided to do your show, did you decide we got to talk about everybody? Because you could have done a show where you said, I'm just talking about my faves, or did the audience help dictate that you kind of have some? I mean, how did that work for you? I'm asking you all the kind of same questions, but I'm curious with you first because, like I said, a long time ago, there was only a few of us out there, and you could have done whatever you want. You could have angled your show any way you wanted to.
That's true. I mean, I think well at the start I wasn't a live stream. I was just like maybe like a 10-minute, like
That's right.
very edited in my laundry room, like
That's right. I remember that.
like using a lamp as my like lighting, like
Yeah.
and I really only did it because Tumblr wanted me to, and I was like, okay. But
The
even
older
then, like
days.
I tried to still kind of say as much as I could, because it's like, well, if I'm gonna do a show, I can't like ignore the characters that I hate. I can be like, well, I don't want to talk about this that much, and I would, like back then,
Yes.
just to keep it short. But like my thoughts on that, and then I just do like a zoom in of like, it sucked. Moving on, like that would be me back then. But with a live stream, like the chats in there, they want to talk about certain things, and I kind of knew that, and so I mean, I started paying attention to the whole show very early on, but because it's a longer format than what I did, it's like just cover all the bases, keep the conversation going. Because if not a lot happens and you're only talking about half the show, then it's like, well, what else can I do within this hour that I usually try to give myself on a live stream? And so I do my best. There's probably some things that I missed. If it was so obscure, I'll like maybe bring it up a little bit, or I'll ask the chat, like, is there anything that I left out that you guys want me to talk about that I haven't? Because I obviously I make the sort of the biggest parts of the week, kind of the lead in for or the main topics, but I'll still bring up like the little thing that happened there, or I liked this little scene here. The acting was funny there. These were hysterical moments here. Even if there's not much to say in terms of like the story, but I think it's important, I think for all of us to like try to cover the bases so that we don't miss out, so that people aren't in the chat like, hey, you didn't talk about this. Like, sorry, I just forgot about it. So like even on like a Sunday, because when I do my recap shows on the Sunday, I'm like also reading the recaps of the week just to give myself a reminder.
Oh, okay.
Like I watch the show 5 days a week,
Yeah.
but at the same time I'm like, okay, just in case, just to have this here in front of me, like what else happened, what can I say? I try to get every detail so that it doesn't happen where I'm like, well, I didn't talk about this thing today, my bad. Or sometimes on Wednesdays I'll do like just like a hangout, like a more laid back version of that. And then on the Sunday I'll be like, well, we talked about it a little bit more on Wednesday, but just to recap, this is my thoughts on that. Sometimes that'll happen. But I do think it's important to cover the bases when we're talking about our soaps, because yeah, it is our own show and we can kind of make that choice, but I don't think people want to watch like us if we're not going to kind of give our thoughts on everything, so to speak.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah.
But you and Albert both are soloists, so it's a little harder. Luckily, Kim and I, we have co-hosts, so if I forget something, I'm like, what happened yesterday? Whatever. I just ask the chat. So what happened on Friday? I don't know. And there's times when I'm like, oh yeah, I forgot on purpose. I didn't want to talk about that. I'm like, yo, I still say that. I'm like, I can talk about that. Like, as the man who should not be named on my channel. There were many times I was like, we got to talk about him. We have to talk about him.
I mean, I do that reaction too. I'm like, you know what it is. We gotta talk about Drew again.
Yeah.
We can't escape him. We had nothing to talk about though.
But it's funny, way back in the day. So folks, many of you guys who've been with us back in the day when we started, Twitter and them just started getting into because Twitter's been around since 2009, but it wasn't nothing for a while. Remember, Twitter was nothing for it was boring for longest for years, and then it started to kind of kick in. Reddit was around. I remember Television Without Pity. Remember that website? That was just boring. Oh my god, people found it all the time. Well, MySpace. We had MySpace for a while. There's a few things, but like now we have so much that's there. And when I went to AfterBuzz TV in 2014, oh my god, I got there. They're like, go on Twitter. You gotta go on Twitter, and you gotta put your handle. And I was like, I'm not even on. I don't like what you on Twitter. And it was kind of crazy. And now it's much more. And Tumblr, you mentioned Tumblr. Like now it's all these things out there. I'm just like, oh yeah, it's a lot. I will go to Kim next about that. So because you work with other people, and I guess you guys are doing you guys do the whole show of each of the shows you do, correct?
That's the only reason why I, got on board with the whole thing in the first place is because Vinny was looking for a co-host. Like there was no way that I was about to start up my own sort of, I give you guys kudos for like doing your own solo thing because I need a co-host to keep me in line. Otherwise I just go off on like a tangent about, just it would get silly.
Off the rails.
No, Vinny and I appreciate the fact that like, we can kind of I like with the Bay how, I walked into it having already watched a while ago and he was coming into it fresh. I mean, they gave us sort of like a good back and forth with chatting about the show and everything like that. And it was just fun watching him just kind of react to, stuff that I'd already kind of seen and forgotten about. And then I got to like react to it. I appreciate that give and take aspect and being able to just kind of have that sort of, because we can kind of craft, based on, we'll be recapping, but we'll also just be like offering up a commentary. And with Gate Crashers too, with that's a little bit of more of a challenge just because there's a lot to cover. We only do that once a week. Obviously, I stay caught up. I watch that faithfully, but it's like, oh, wait a minute, this happened. And this happened too. Oh, shoot. Okay, now I got to go back and like, wait a minute, what's this character's? And sometimes I just get a little bit, caught up in certain scenes that I love. Like we'll just like go on about that. And then it's like, oh, wait a minute. No, we forgot to talk about this. So we got to touch back to that. And sometimes that can be a little bit because there's so much to cover sometimes especially with the show that's on 5 days a week. And we're only recapping, the start of the week. So it's just like, trying to find that balance, it's a little tricky, but it's fun at the same time, and we just I just try and keep a highlight reel in my head of points that I'm like, this was a scene that I love. This was a scene that like really was a good turning point for this character. Like I'll take notes and I'll like, for episodes and stuff, I'll like write up a recap as I'm watching just so then that way it's in my brain for later. Cause otherwise the details go out of my brain and then I just start gushing and then things get off the rails until Vinny puts me back in check.
It's funny. So I had the luxury of AfterBuzz TV, and they taught us it was live. So all my TV was live. That was my first anything was live. And so for me, when now you remind me, Deon, of your recorded bits. I used to watch. I remember that. I didn't do anything recorded. So everything was live television. We had a time period. So like you guys, I mean, I could be on for like 5 hours if you want to. You guys can be on whenever you want to. We were like, okay, James, we were in a lineup of shows. So it's like, okay, you have first at one point we had only 35 minutes. Then it went to 45 minutes, went to an hour and a half because we have guests sometimes, as you know. So and I had 3 co-hosts. So it's 4 of us having to talk. So I got great learning experience on how to be a good co-host, on how to be a good leading host, and also watch because when I was a lead, I had to watch the time, which I still do because my shows are still the same way. I have to watch the time period because I have a show after this. Make sure the conversation is still going. Watch the chat, which, Albert and I always talk about that. Watch the chat. Make sure you watch. He's really good at that. I always watch. He's good. Watching the chat, doing that. So for me, it's muscle memory at this point because I used to take notes, Kim, back in the day. I used to have these little note cards and everybody wanted to see them. But now all of us, and because I work with their afterbuzzers, except for Amanda's afterbuzzer, but I work with Tammy and Frank, we're all trained. We don't take notes. I can remember, I'm watching 4 shows a week, 4 or 5 episode shows a week. I had it all in my head. And so I don't know. I couldn't tell you how to do that. It was 10 years of doing it. It was, I guess, I'm just doing it. But I know that when I take time off, if it's longer than like 2 months, which has happened a couple of times, Oh, that first week, I'm like, I gotta take notes. I'm like, okay, I'm like, what the fuck happened? I don't know, whatever. I get on, I'm like, hi, we're back, and I'm like, so what happened? What happened on the show? And I watch it. So yeah, but it's like muscle memory. So I was very fortunate to be trained by AfterBuzz TV because we're doing that. So Albert, now it's your turn, Albert, and you're pretty good at this stuff. So but what do you think?
What is the okay? Somewhere along the line, like there was a question being asked, and I felt like I kind of lost the question in there. Was it more of like how do you do your show, or like
Okay. I'll
yeah,
talk to you. Okay, yeah, no, that's fine. Okay, so when you're choosing, because I know some of your answers because we're friends, and I've been part of your journey as you've been doing this. You started going on every night and just doing. At first, I saw you doing different soaps at one time. I think you see you nowadays. You kind of sometimes blend, I guess, some of your soaps. So I'm saying, how did you choose your format? Like, how do you choose? Like, say, I'm gonna go on here. And I want to talk about all about General Hospital instead of coming on and saying I'm the Carly show or I'm the Jason show. Like, how did you choose to kind of like your kind of your brand basically on how you do it?
well, I honestly told you I got inspired because, like, you're an OG, Brock TV's an OG. And so, like, he inspired me on how to do it, as far as, do the review and talk about all the characters and stuff like that. Obviously, I have to sit there and change it up because I don't want to be exactly like someone else. But, like, he kind of taught me the blueprint of, like, you talk about all the characters and you always sit there and try to find something interesting even if you don't like the character, you find something interesting or something a little more lighthearted to talk about as opposed to just being super negative. So that's, and I, just like what Deon says, they're not watching it just for you to talk about your favorite characters. And plus there's people that like to get a recap because they may not watch the episode every day, but they like to come to you to sit there and get a recap. So if you only give half of a recap, it's like, why are they watching? So that's pretty much how I do it. Live streaming is a little bit different because you do, you got co-hosts and Kim has co-hosts. I do collabs every now and then, but for most of the part, I'm kind of just doing, like Dion, just solo. But it's that I kind of got from you a little bit as far as like the structure of like talking to the chat, answering the chat, and just kind of just keeping the conversation going and also having notes to remember, have an idea of what I'm going to talk about. So like Brock was kind of like my inspiration as far as doing reviews, and you're my inspiration as far as doing live streams, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. And Brock will be on one of the later ones. We talked, so he'll be on one of the later ones.
Okay.
I didn't forget him. So he'll be on. He's one of the, he's again one of the OGs. So we will be talking. He'll be on one of these. So back in so later in July, folks. Just stay tuned for that. Well, he's gonna be on there. Yeah, no, I know, and I piggyback what Kim said. It's amazing when you do a solo show because I do solo shows too, other shows as you know. I do my JLJ this morning. I do other things I do by myself, and I have a lot of people in this business. I'm telling you, people in this business are like anybody can do their own show and like hold an audience for like longer than 20 and 30 minutes. That's amazing. That is a gift. So Deon and Albert, you both do that. I mean, and that's just and others out there too. But you guys are on my show today. I want to say you guys are actually very, very special in that way. That there are a lot of hosts I know who would never do that. They could get too scared. They don't have enough. They're not as fearless as you guys. I don't know if you feel that way. That you feel like you're fearless or not. But I just know that because I do solo also, and I can do it. But some folks are like, James, I can't just get on. I go, but the chat's there for you. The chat's like part of it. Like, and you got, and also, well, let's say, well, Deon, it's very true. Right? You have to know what you're going to talk about first of all. I guess that's the kind of like a skeleton of what you're going to say. What you're going to say, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have my notes laid out right in front of me. They can't see it, but I'm like reading off of it just so I don't miss anything.
Oh, do you really?
Course,
I know that.
I do. Oh yeah, absolutely I do. And I mean, I still try to interact with the chat, and so, but I still have like, okay, I'm there, so like I can bring it back to this. But the chat a lot of times they lead it too. So I'm like, if they want to talk about something first, and I had it in a different order, cool, I can go back, and I'll like space it out and be like, this is the Drew section. This is the quarter mains, the rest of the quarter mains. This is Portia and Curtis. Like it's all like laid out, underlined, so I know where things are, I know what I've talked about. And You know, it's important, especially to make sure that you get everything as well. It's not always word for word that I'm reading on the notes, because obviously, you know, I'm kind of going off of my rants and whatnot. It's more like, this is what happened, state your opinion, like kind of notes. But it's like, yeah, if I didn't have that, I'd probably, the show would be messy. It would be messy.
Messy, I know. I'm going to change the subject again. We have a few more questions, and I just want again thank everybody who's in here. Thank you for being with us for the last hour. Thank you so much. 45 people are in here. We appreciate you. And I see people in the chat talking about yeah. I could probably go solo, but I prefer some spirit. Then there's also preference. You're right. There's also going to have preference. You just rather have people with them. All three of you guys give me a different version of what soap opera needs. Thank you guys. And even though the new girl is here, she also did too. Very good, money. There you go. The new girl. You're the new girl. There's a new girl in town. That was good. But yeah, so she's good. Looking forward to Brock's options. Yeah, Brock speaks his mind too. We're gonna talk about it. Don't worry, he'll be good. I got people. I said Dan Kroll is one person too who he's a legend in business. Of telling me we have a lot to talk about. So a lot to talk about. Just last couple of questions I want to ask you guys. And one is, I'm asking everybody this. You know, and you guys at home too can answer. Yeah, everybody already knows who mine is. I'm gonna say it out loud because it's already been said. But the question is, on one of the shows you watch, which actor with slash character, but the actor is a national treasure and should be protected at all costs? For me, it's Jane Elliott as Tracy Quartermaine. To me, she has done so much for that show in the last year or so. Every scene, she has chemistry with everybody. Every scene she's in, it's just, I just feel like thank God you brought her back. And she's supposed to be recurring at one point, but she's on the show. She's in the lead like she's supposed to be, and she'll be protected at all costs. That's mine. I've been saying that all the time. So I'm going to ask you guys for just any of the shows you're on, what actor you feel like that's the one we got to keep going. Kim, you can go first.
I have to say Stephen Nichols as Steve. I love that character with every fiber of my being. I've had the privilege of meeting Stephen Nichols a couple of times, and he is the most lovely, delightful human out there. And just, I fell into Days because I was like, hey, these two, the guy with the eye patch and the pretty blonde who I recognize from General Hospital, I like the two of them together. I want to find out their story. Cut to me doing a huge deep dive into Days because I watched a couple of scenes that the two of them shared. And now I fell for the show. So he got me into that character. Patch, Steve, just yes, he needs to be protected at all costs and bubble wrapped. And yes,
and he was great as Stefan on also. I mean,
it was so funny too because my mother, when I got to meet Stephen Nichols at Day of Days, and I took got like a little photo, she's like, oh my gosh, you're with Stefan. And like, oh my gosh, you saw Ned. Oh my gosh, you saw.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, yes, that's right. You're right. Yes.
All the associations with General Hospital, with all the actors that have crossed over to Days. It's like, I know them from Days. She knows them from GH.
And Wally Kurt's the only one who still does both. He does both. Yes. He does both. And Greg Rickard does Days and YNR. He hasn't been on YNR in a while.
There's so much.
Sorry?
There's so much crossover, But yeah, no, first one that came to mind definitely was him.
I know, I've met him too. Very sweet guy. Brooklyn in the chat says Michelle Stafford, as you guys know, my best friends in real life. I love Michelle. I love her as Nina. Love her as Phyllis. That's my girl. Okay, I'm gonna ask Albert Bostic, who is his favorite actor that needs to be protected at all costs on one of his shows you watch?
Honestly, to tell you the truth, I would sit there and say Tabiana. And not just so much because of Trina or anything like that, but more because of the actor. Because of all the stuff that she has to go through and all the different negativity that she's had simply for just doing something that she loves to do. Even when the great Eric Braeden had to, step in and I guess some fan came out. Yeah, fan came out to her. And that's not even his show. And he just looked at it like, nah, bro, you out of pocket. And I'm like, if Eric Braeden has to sit there and like, say something, it's like, all right, you did wrong. So I'm gonna sit there and go with Tavi.
Well, Eric Braeden, any black person in America in the last 50 years was raised by Victor Newman. So, I mean, that's just a well-known fact. Black folks, he loved black folks. So I'm telling you, he's one of my good friends too. He loved the black folks. He comes to the hood to go boxing. He goes places in LA that I don't go to. He was like, Hoover and 100. I said, I don't go there. He started laughing. I'm black. I don't go over there. And he goes over there. So I treasure his friendship. I've interviewed him like 5 times on camera. We've talked off camera. He's a great guy. And Tabiana, I got a chance to meet because of the whole Sprina banner. I had to meet her in person with Nicholas Chavez, and I was there for all of that, recording it and stuff. And I got to meet her mother. So like you, Albert, because I got to meet her, I felt now I want to protect her too, kind of. Like she just wants to act. That's all she wants to do. And she gets so much. I mean, yeah, it's ridiculous. Deon, who should be protected at all costs for you?
100% agree with you, James. Jane Elliott is the GOAT. She's incredible. Like I've watched like her other shows, her other movies, and I just adore her. But I'd say it's also maybe a tie for me with Jeannie Francis, Laura. She's legendary. Like when she was booted off, however many years ago that was, out of nowhere. I think I spent every single show that I did being like, Jeannie is GH, bring her back. What the F? Why is like I was like fighting. I was angry. And I think that when they brought her back, they realized they're like, well, damn, we gotta actually give her good stories now. And they gave her Cyrus and Martin, and they utilized a part of the history that existed, but like just wasn't really touched upon. And I think like giving her brothers, like it didn't feel like a gimmick. It felt like they're just pulling from a history that hasn't been really established. We know that like the whole relationship with Leslie and Cyrus's father, that was a thing.
It was.
And like surely he does have
right
kids out there, so it made sense. And now Cyrus is dead, so thanks Jocelyn. But and also they scored Jeff Kober for that. Like that in itself was incredible.
Sorry, go ahead, Kim.
I had to chime in because Michael Knight and Jeannie Francis, you gotta have they're goats. You gotta have the two of them, even in GH and Jason, I was just like, oh my gosh, Michael Knight is on there and he's playing Laura's brother. What the hell? That's
and they have such great chemistry too. I love them, Kim. It's like they make such good brother and sister, and she's so like motherly to him too. Even though he's not much younger than her, it's like it's cute. I love their sibling sort of bond that they formed, and it felt natural too. Like they kind of had dealing with Cyrus as like the common thing of like our wayward brother who's a bit of a psycho, but it formed their bond. And I hate that they just kind of like usher Martin in and out. Maybe I don't know if it has to do with Michael's availability, but I get all sad when he just like escapes and has to like deal with something off screen for 5 months and then come back in. But they never miss a beat when he comes back. So
Jeff Kober was the bomb. I got to interview him and meet him at the Emmys. Great guy, very fascinating guy. We always thought Cyrus was funny because he just never read the room. He didn't care. He would just show up places. He didn't give a fuck. So we liked him. I enjoyed. Like I agree with you, Deon, completely. It didn't feel forced. It felt natural. It felt intriguing. The three of them. I'm glad they dropped the Kentucky Fried accents. Thank you, Jesus. I was like, thank you. We don't need that. Because Michael E. Knight is a 3-time Emmy-winning talent already on his own. We don't need any fake accents and that hummingbird cake or whatever shit was. So I'm glad that the three of them together to me were magic. But they wrote Cyrus into a corner, so I get that, folks. I totally get it. But I agree with you. It was just natural, and some storylines you're like, well, I think she did have an affair with him. I mean, like some things did work out. It was kind of like it worked. And Jeannie Francis is, I mean, it's funny because I think all these subs, and you guys probably can agree on this on some level, there's certain actors, longtime actors, like a Susan Seaforth Hayes or a Deidre Hall, or a certain soaps, that like I said, or Jane Elliott, or Gene Francis, or even say Laura Wright at this point. She's been on it for like all these years. There's certain people on certain shows you're like, they need to be showcased more because they're related to everybody just about on some level. And they do elevate scenes. They do elevate scenes with their scene partners. And in the old days, there was that thing where they put a newbie with somebody veteran and they kind of brought them up. And I don't mind that for some reason. I don't mind that. I don't mind that at all. I don't like that. Last question for you guys. You guys have been so gracious to me. We're almost an hour and a half. For all of them, it's late for them. So they have to go to bed. They got things to do. So I'm gonna do one last question for you guys. Is there a character on these soap operas that you relate to in real life? I haven't asked this question of any of the groups yet. You're the first for me to ask this question. Is there any character on any of the soaps you watch that you kind of relate to? Because I mean, soaps are always so outlandish, outrageous, but I wonder. There's times when they have real human stuff on these shows. Is there one? And so we'll go with the ladies first. Oh, we're going down to you first. Albert first. We're going to Albert first. Is there or is there
Okay.
not? Or is there not?
I don't know.
No.
Okay, go ahead, Kim.
No. I'm just trying to. I don't know. It's like I keep on like my mind instantly goes to like my favorite characters, but I don't know. Like, is that because I just love
Nope.
them? I really
It's
no.
relate. The question, you're right. The question is, do you relate to any of them?
Come back to me. I gotta
Okay.
think.
So Albert. Okay, good. Albert.
I can't think of one right now. And the thing is, it's the weirdest thing because I remember DC asked me that question, like, who are you most like, in a sense? And I'm like, I can't. So I remember I made a joke with you
Yes.
off camera, and I was sitting there saying like, you said like the last show did really well, and I was like, yeah, no, because I was there. I'm like the Victor Newman. I like to sit there and know what's going on with everybody. So like jokingly, I would sit there and say him, but in reality, I can't think of one.
That's right. And also, so you don't have to have an answer. I'm just curious that it's a question that someone's asked me, and I'm like, oh, people call me because DC always doing nicknames too all the time. It's like you're like
Anthony
Victor
Sakara.
on this show, and all these big, or it's Adam Chandler, and you see all these big people, these names. Yeah, can you think of anybody that if there's anybody?
I am racking my brain, and I'm thinking back. I'm like thinking back to like 80s GH, 90s GH. I'm like, I don't think that there's anyone that's like that's me. Like I like in any situation, just because GH is a bit extreme. They have everything from mobsters to rich families to super spies, and then like hospital workers. And I'm like, none of none of that's me. But I think that's part of why I like GH is that it kind of takes you into this like fantasy world of like things that could never happen to you. You'd love to be around it in real life, like the messy rich folks, or like just constantly caught in like crazy situations, but you always survive somehow. Like I'll like sit there and imagine like, man, if I was at the Metro Court during the hostage crisis, like I would probably have such a sense of humor about this. Like this is the fourth explosion that I've been caught in the last 12 months. It's like every 3 months there's something else, a virus, and then, a train wreck. And now suddenly I'm in a hostage crisis. And, now there's a toxic thing in the hospital. Like, I loved it. It's so crazy. But no, there's no character that I'm like, that's me. Like, no, I can't think of anyone that I can relate to really.
This is a hard question. I like this is a hard question for folks. I wonder if anybody in the future, if I ask if they come up with anything. So I mean,
I can think of some negative aspects of me. Like Victor can be very petty, and I'm a very petty person, and I'm also a very competitive person, which is not good qualities. I'm just pointing that out. So I guess in a way I can relate to some of Victor's kind of more negative tendencies, but that's about
hey,
it.
Victor's a self-made man, though. Victor, his name was Victorious Newman. That's how he started. So that's where he got his name. That's where he got his name. So his real name was Christian. I forgot the last name. His real name was. So he was a foster kid. So he said, "My name is Victorious Newman, Victor Newman." So folks, you didn't know that. That's the reason why his name. So he's a self-made man. You're a self-made man. Shit.
Thank you.
See, there you go. Kim, anything you ever know? You know, like that. Not favorite characters. Anybody can relate to? No.
Certain aspects of certain characters that like I'll be like I'll see how they react to a certain situation and I'll be like, okay, that resonates with me. That's how I would be. Like, but that like, isn't like one specific character. It's like, certain moments. Like, I don't know, watching Beyond the Gates, like there was a scene with Naomi recently, and I was just like, she was having this tough conversation with her father, with Bill, and just like having had similar sort of, it's like, similar family sort of situations, things like that, family drama. It's like, I get your argument to him right now. I get why you're in this headspace right now. Like, that on that level, I feel like I can kind of relate. But in terms of one specific face, one specific character, that's too tough to pinpoint, I think.
Yeah. It's like in Sex and the City. Like, are you a Charlotte? Are you a Miranda? I'm a Miranda, apparently, it turns out. Are you a Carrie? Like those, like some shows are like that. Living Single. Are you a Khadijah? Are you a this? Friends. Are you a Ross or Rachel? I know that other shows kind of you can almost relate more to them. You can almost kind of relate to them, but I think soaps are harder. I think they are harder because we're not
What
all.
about you, James?
Go ahead.
What about you?
Yeah.
So the closest I would be Laura. The closest. I've had some strange things happen in my life. I had lots of adventure when I was younger. I have a bunch of kids out there from different people. And I'm pretty much I'm in a leadership position. I feel like I relate to her a lot. A lot of things she says stuff. She's not goody two shoes. She acknowledges her past and her mistakes. But she's also very strict. When Laura gets pissed, she gets pissed. She goes for it. When she had one scene with Cyrus once, and the way she said it, she whispered, "I will take you out myself." Once I was like, "Oh my!" Even he was like, "Okay, bitch." Yeah, he got a little scared. But she's also very loving, very maternal, very paternal. My kids and grandkids of my life. I'm very much like her. She doesn't take crap, and she's been through some things. And I feel like that's me in terms of I've been through some things, and I don't take crap. I mean, close I can think of somebody. But I'm thinking about it harder too, because I'm like, I'll be curious if anybody can actually answer that question. And that's what we're going to end the show on. On that, we had another roundtable. Thank you, everybody. Roundtable number 4. Number 4, folks. This is number 4. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe if you haven't already. Again, I'll come to your house. I'll knock on the door. And please, I'm going to have them tell you where you can find them, what they do. Follow them, follow them, follow them. I'm not joking. Follow them. We're going to start with ladies first, and that will be Deon. Kim, you go first, please. You can tell everybody where they can find you.
Well, I am Misfit8690 on Twitter, KP on Twitter. Feel free to follow me there, find me there. We stream our podcast through StreamYard, through Twitter, as well as on YouTube. You can find me on YouTube, A Little Misfit 52. That's my channel there. And feel free to just chat me up about soaps or anything that strikes your fancy.
And also this Saturday on the Really Short Story podcast, we have the Penultimate Wish number 3. That's coming out actually. It stars Kim Pinto, it stars Jack Wolf and Anthony Chupazzi. It is a reading of a continuing story. So that'll be out on Saturday, and she's part of that. So check that out. And Fairview Heights City Hall, she's part of that. Also out tomorrow. Episode 3 is out tomorrow. We do audio dramas, folks. I'm actually an audio drama award winner, so we do that here. All right, next, my buddy, all the way from New York City, Albert Bostic.
So yeah, you can just follow me, Albert Bostic on Instagram and Albert Bostic on YouTube. I pretty much am on 5 days a week, 5 to 7 days a week. So just follow Albert Bostic on YouTube and you can't miss me.
I will, and I'm gonna have the YouTube handles in there, so you guys can just click on it and go. But thank you, Albert. And my longtime friend, GH Envy over there, Deon Gabriel, can you please tell me where they can find you?
Yes, you can find me on YouTube at Deon's Corner. I'm on Instagram as GH After Show as well. I do music as well, so Deon Gabriel Music on Instagram too. So yeah, those are all my main places to find me. I don't do Twitter. Soap Twitter scares me, you guys. I'm like not there.
It should scare you. Trust me.
Yeah,
I
I
know.
stay away. I stay away.
I'm barely on there myself. Trust me. I just barely anymore. And you can find me where all James Lott Juniors are sold at James Lott Jr. on all social media platforms. I've been saying that for 10 years. It's still true. I'm expensive though. I was cheap when I first started. I'm expensive now. But follow me and follow all my shenanigans. I got 10,000 shows on this network. But again, this Sunday, it is the Wide Mini Spotlight, both beautiful mini spotlight, and the GH mini spotlight. We are here starting at 10 a.m. Pacific. We will have a good time. We got a lot. We got Kate Ashby to talk about. We got Crazy Luna on Bold, and of course, more of Michael and Willow and Tracy and Martin. Everybody on GH. So check that out. Support some podcasts. There are a lot of them, and we'll see you next time.